Thank the honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek. The time signal was really just a signal that we were going to switch into another mode here for statements by members, but indeed she will be able to resume her remarks when the House next gets back to debate on the question that's before the House. Maintenant, on va go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député de Montcalm.
The honourable member for Montcalm.
Il n'y a aucun progrès dans le traitement des dossiers et l'entente des tiers pays. Bien. Encore aujourd'hui, Ottawa veut forcer Québec à accueillir plus de réfugiés.
Quebec has been creating more refugees.
Encore aujourd'hui, Ottawa s'oppose à ce que les nouveaux arrivants démontrent une connaissance suffisante du français pour devenir citoyens.
The interpreter apologizes she can't hear the speaker.
Que le Québec devrait gérer son immigration sans Ottawa.
Bravo!
Honourable member for Brampton South.
Speaker, I'm honored to rise in the House today and shed light on an important milestone for Sikhs around the world. This year in November marks the 550th birth anniversary of the founder of the Sikh faith, Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings are based on the fundamental beliefs of faith and meditation on the name of the one Creator, the divine unity and equality of all humankind. These are not only the Sikh values, but they are also Canadian values. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all my constituents for the honor they have given me to serve my community of Brampton South. We know that there's more to be done, and when Canadians re-elect us in October, we will finish what we began. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Barrie Springwater Oral Medonte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 8 years on Barrie City Council, a year of campaigning, a 3-week recount, I was afforded what will forever be one of the greatest honours of my life, being elected as the Member of Parliament for Barrie Springwater Oro Medonte. I want to thank all of my staff, my wife Erica, my children, all of my extended family, the supporters, and especially the incredible people of Barrie Springwater Oro Medonte for this incredible honour. As a Conservative, I know I fought for freedom, for hope and opportunity, and that will never, ever cease. It's a reason why, even after this election, we will continue to partner with Pie Restaurant, providing backpacks to children in Central Ontario through Pie Education, and the newly announced Boots and Hearts Barn Burner hockey game on August 7th, raising money for the RVH and many other local charities. We look forward to seeing you there, and thank you so very much for the honour.
Honourable member for St. John Rothsay.
Mr. Speaker, unions built the middle class in St. John Rothsay, and today, unions like IBEW, CUPW, CUPE, PSAC, ILA, Unifor, IAFF, and the SJPA, and union leaders like Darlene Bembridge, Dwayne Squires, Craig Melvin, Aaron Howell-Sharp, Tammy Nadeau, Pat Riley, Kevin Suddy, and Jean-Marc Ringette are pillars of my community. In 2015, the people of St. John Rothsay sent me here to stand up for them. One of the ways I have done just this by taking office is standing up for my constituents' collective bargaining rights, both in this House and at HUMA. I was tremendously proud to stand up for Bills C4 and C62 and repeal the conservative anti-union legislation in both places. I will always stand up for the rights of workers in my riding, and I will always stand up for the good middle-class jobs for the people of St. John Rothsay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Churchill-Kluat-Nakaski.
Mr. Speaker, 4 years ago, people in our north held out hope when it came to the Liberal government's commitments. Words like reconciliation, nation-to-nation relationships, support for the middle class, or champions on climate change. But fast forward 4 years later, and the shine is off. The housing crisis on First Nations is worse than it was. Healthcare continues to be underfunded and inadequate. And when it comes to middle-class jobs, our north has lost hundreds of them, and the federal government didn't even lift a finger. And as for climate change, not only only has Canada failed, but First Nations and northern communities are paying the price. The disappearing ice roads point to the urgent need for all-weather roads, and as wildlife is impacted, so are people. There must be immediate action. Enough of the talk. First Nations, Métis, and northern people deserve a federal government on their side, one that works with us to take on climate change and crushing inequality. The Liberals aren't the answer, and we can't go back to the Conservatives. Only the NDP will fight for our North and our Canada. Bravo!
The honourable member for London North Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for the final time in this session of Parliament to highlight a remarkable community leader. In 2007, Londoner Teresa Carrier was diagnosed with breast cancer. This was a battle she faced head-on, beginning treatment almost immediately, which included having a double mastectomy. Teresa ultimately beat the disease and turned her personal ordeal into a public service. This past Friday, Teresa embarked on her fifth One Run, a 100-kilometer run that took her from London to the nearby community of Strathroy and back again, Mr. Speaker. 5 times over the past 9 years, Teresa has run 100 kilometers in a single day. I repeat, in a single day, Mr. Speaker, to support cancer care programs that assist patients and their families. Supporters were asked to run a single kilometer alongside her, and I was honored to take part. Since being established in 2010, One Run has raised more than $1 million, Mr. Speaker. Teresa's strength, resilience, and dedication to the cause is commendable. She's an outstanding Canadian, an example to all of us. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is clearly a bittersweet moment as I rise to give the last member statement of my political career as a member of Parliament for the great constituency of Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa. For 3 elections, the voters of this wonderful constituency have returned me to Ottawa to work on their behalf. The trust that they have placed in me is truly humbling, and I do hope that I have lived up to their expectations. My passion to do what I can to protect and defend our rural way of life remains undiminished. I would be remiss if I did not mention my political idol, the great Duff Roblin, former Premier of Manitoba. His achievements on behalf of all Manitobans have stood the test of time, and he inspired me with his vision and accomplishments. He proved to me that governments can be a force for good. To my beloved wife, Caroline, my beautiful family, I thank them for the love, support, and guidance over these years, and all I can say is I love you all. And to my beautiful grandchildren, Eden, Esme, and Senan, who love nature, our farm, and the outdoors as much as I do, all I can say is, Papa's coming home. Hey.
The honourable member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, just 4 months ago, I spoke in this House about little Cage Fowler from Sault Ste. Marie. I spoke about his diagnosis of diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, or DIPG, a highly aggressive brain tumor found in the brainstem with a 0% survival rate. Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness I share that little Cage has passed away. Cage died surrounded by loved ones. His last words, "I love you too." His life was powerful but short. His battle with DIPG was and had a profound effect on the riding of Sault Ste. Marie. Our wonderful community rallied around his family with countless fundraising initiatives to assist with medical and transportation costs. Words of encouragement and support flooded the superhero Cage Fighters Against DIPG Foundation Facebook. Today, I will be tabling the petition his family created to establish May 25th of every year as National Day for DIPG Awareness, as May 25th, 2018 was the date of Cage's diagnosis. Mr. Speaker, this childhood cancer is the most fatal, and as such, we need to immensely increase its awareness. Awareness is key for research and support, and research is desperately needed. Thank you very much.
Honourable member for Oakville.
Mr. Speaker, I'm rising today to recognize an extraordinary woman who's been an incredible force in my community of Oakville. Fiona Fraser has been active throughout her life in charitable causes. She co-led a grassroots effort that saved the pediatrics department at her local hospital, served on the Bronte Citizen Advisory Council to shape the Bronte Outer Harbour, led Habitat for Humanity's campaign for property, and has been an active member of the United Way for over a decade. A member of the Oakville Federal Liberal Association, Fiona is a tireless fundraiser, events organizer, and volunteer coordinator. She's directed successful campaigns municipally, provincially, and federally. Fiona led the team through my nomination, was my campaign manager in 2015, and has served as my director of operations ever since. Mr. Speaker, I am so grateful for Fiona's incredible energy, huge support, and wise counsel. I'm delighted that Fiona has joined me in Ottawa today so I can say thank you, Fiona.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Niagara West.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister pretends he has a plan for the environment. He says his carbon tax will achieve carbon emission reduction targets under the Paris Accord, but his own government figures confirm that is simply not true. Just last week, the Parliamentary Budget Officer released a new report which found that the Liberal carbon tax would have to increase to $102 per tonne to achieve Canada's Paris Accord climate targets. That's 5 times more expensive than it is today. This means that Canadians would pay more for groceries, home heating, and add 23 cents per litre to their cost of their gas. Saying things louder about carbon tax doesn't make them true, despite what the Minister of Environment says. The fact is that the Liberal carbon tax is simply not a plan to lower emissions. It's just another cash grab that's hurting already overtaxed Canadians. Make no mistake, a Conservative government will scrap the carbon tax, leave more money in the pockets of Canadians, and help all Canadians get ahead.
The
honourable member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, it was not quite 4 years ago that the citizens of Vaudreuil-Soulanges put their trust in me to represent them in Ottawa. Although we've made a great deal of progress, we still have a lot to accomplish together.
Council, Seniors Committee, and Environmental Committee, and countless engaged citizens that allowed me to better represent our community's perspective on a wide range of issues here in Ottawa. Merci aussi à mon équipe.
I'd also like to thank my team, Jennifer, Rami, Ralph, Nina, Meet, Céline, Tamara, Patricia, Miles, Sarah, Linda, Martin, and my volunteers and interns who have worked so hard. Finally, thank you to the citizens of Vaudreuil-Soulanges for your confidence in me. Working on your behalf has been a great honour for me. Together, let's continue to build an even stronger Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 100 years ago, the Winnipeg General Strike was the largest labour action ever seen, lasting 6 weeks as thousands walked off the job, demanding better working conditions. 30,000 civilians left their jobs on May 15th, including veterans who 6 months earlier had fought in World War I. First out were the 500 telephone operators known as the Hello Girls. A courageous young woman named Helen Armstrong played a big role in the movement. She held soup kitchens for strikers and their families, free for women. Her involvement was in that she was imprisoned 3 times and called a female Bolshevik. In commemoration, we held a soup kitchen in the Ukrainian Labor Temple to honor the strong women and men who took part in fighting for workers' rights. It is because of these courageous strikers that the next Prime Minister, a Liberal, brought in major labor reforms. 100 years later, I'm proud to stand here today to celebrate what they've achieved for women and Canadian workers across the nation.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the government's environment plan is an unprecedented failure. The Prime Minister claims he has a plan to address climate change and that this carbon tax will allow him to meet the Paris targets. But his own government's numbers show that this isn't true. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that the Liberal carbon tax will have to be set at $102 per tonne in every province to meet the targets. Think about it, Mr. Speaker. 5 times more carbon tax than today. This means paying more for groceries, shipped goods, home heating, and 23 cents more per litre of gas. On October 21st, Canadians will choose an environment plan that is more credible, rational, and doable for the benefit of all Canadians. They will choose the Conservative Party.
The Laurentides-Labelle.
The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle, Mr. Speaker. After years of dealing with various political parties whose only goal is to show that the federal government doesn't work, we can see that Laurentides has an unequaled partner in the federal government. Out of 43 municipalities, half of them have benefited from almost comprehensive high-speed internet service. Poverty and unemployment are going down. Families have more opportunities and more chances to remain in their region. The federal government is a real partner for our region, and that is clear to me.
Courtney Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the citizens of Cumberland, BC are taking forest and watershed protection into their own hands, buying up lands from forest companies under the leadership of the Cumberland Community Forest Society. This small community of less than 4,000 has already purchased over 275 acres and raised over $3 million to protect their forests for future generations. The whole community gets involved, from plant sales and trail runs to trivia nights and local arts events. But the stakes are getting higher. Climate change is impacting the Comox Lake watershed, and protection is increasingly critical to the whole Comox Valley. The Cumberland Community Forest Society is working hard to buy an entire creek system, Perseverance Creek, for $2.6 million. The people of Cumberland are leading, and all levels of government need to follow.
Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Insist on making life more expensive for Canadians from coast to coast. The PBO just confirmed that the carbon tax will need to be $102 per ton in order to reach the Paris Accord agreements. Now, that's 5 times what the current carbon tax costs. This will increase the cost of groceries, the cost of home heating, and it'll increase the cost of gasoline by 23 cents per litre. Mr. Speaker, Canadians cannot afford this. The Prime Minister makes the false claim that this is an environmental plan, but it has nothing to do with the environment. It has everything to do with lining his pockets. Now, if it truly was an environmental plan, then he would go after the biggest emitters, but they get let off the hook. Meanwhile, soccer moms are left paying the bill. British Columbia has the longest standing carbon tax. We see the amounts of emission actually going up rather than coming down. The carbon tax, it won't reduce pollution, but it certainly will cost Canadians a whole lot of money. Now, it's time for a real environmental plan, and that environmental plan is on this side of the House. It'll be announced on June 19th. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to bringing that.
Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, bounce, 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 game. There were so many memorable moments as the Raptors won the historic championship they captured last week, and the riding that I represent is quite literally today the absolute guaranteed center of the universe, as millions of Toronto sports fans across the country are celebrating. The city is celebrating a team that means the world to us, but it's also a team that we can see the world in, and this is critical about this beautiful team that won. The Six is sweet. Our city is not only where we have the best come to play, it's also a city where the best come to live, to love, to work, to learn, and to invest. The last names say it all, from Lynn to Gasol, from Siakam to Leonard, to Nurse, to McGlure, to Masai, and of course, Aubrey and Batia and Lowry with those 2 beautiful kids. Spicy P summed it up best when he said, what? No French question? Toronto's team is an international team because all the world has a home in TO. It's the Canadian way. Nous sommes the North, we the North, we won it all.
Questions. Questions oral. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Have proven that no matter what side of the issue you're on, nobody can trust the Liberals. We fully expect them to approve Trans Mountain later this week, just so they can say that they did. And then we fully expect them to do absolutely nothing to get it built, because they don't want to upset those voters in Burnaby. So why won't the Liberals just admit that they don't want pipelines and that Trans Mountain will never actually get built under their watch?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have more confidence in Canada's energy sector than being portrayed by the members of the official opposition. We gave approval to Enbridge Line 3, which is almost completed on the Canadian side. We're working with the U.S. on Keystone XL pipeline. We are moving forward on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project in the right way with the meaningful consultation that has been concluded with Indigenous communities, and we have full confidence in our energy sector, Mr. Speaker.
All Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a year ago, the Prime Minister promised that construction would start on TMX, and a year later, not an ounce of dirt has been moved. The Prime Minister says one thing in one part of the country, and he says something completely different in another part, because just like on everything else, he speaks out of both sides of his mouth. The Prime Minister doesn't support pipelines and the jobs that come with them. Now, he could try to prove us wrong, so will he tell us right now, when will construction on TMX start in Burnaby?
Well, Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, it is quite known to Canadians that when Stephen Harper got into office in 2006, 99% of the oil from Alberta was sold to only a single customer, which was the United States. When he left office in 2015, Mr. Speaker, that was the case 10 years later. The 99% of the oil was still sold to the United States because their plan failed to build a single pipeline to diversify our market to non-U.S. markets. We are changing that, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, 4 major pipelines were built under Conservative watch without $1 of taxpayers' money used. Over the last 4 years, though, the Prime Minister has done everything in his power to destroy jobs in Canada's energy sectors. He's forcing through devastating bills like C-48 and the No More Pipelines Bill C-69. And right now, he is playing political games with the TMX pipeline. Will the Prime Minister finally be honest with our energy workers and admit he has no intention for construction to start in Burnaby? Be honest.
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, if the members of the official opposition were really serious about moving forward with the process of TMX in the right way, they would not have voted to shut down and kill that process. That shows the lack of sincerity to getting our resources to non-U.S. markets. We are doing the hard work to ensure that meaningful consultation is taking place with Indigenous communities, that we are taking action on the environment and protection of the environment. As Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the Trans Mountain Pipeline is essential for the economy for all Canadians, and it's good for all of Canada. Unfortunately, when they announced it a year ago, they haven't done anything since. But they paid $4.5 billion. They sent it to Houston, and now we've got C-48, 69 that run the wrong way, they're opposed to energy. Can the Liberals finally tell Canadians, set the record straight, and tell them when the pipeline will be built?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, once again, Conservatives are demonstrating that they have no confidence in Canada's energy sector. We are moving forward on this project. From the day one, the Federal Court of Appeal made its decision cancelling the TMX project. One of the reasons that project got stalled was because when the process of the review was started in 2013 under Stephen Harper's government, they failed to include the impact of the environment on the marine shipping on the marine environment, Mr. Speaker. We are changing that. We are engaging with the Indigenous communities in the right way to move forward on the project that will make...
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians know full well what side the Liberal Party are on, and they're showing contempt for workers in the West who are working in the energy sector. And as proof, the Prime Minister said that he wanted to see oil eliminated and that the rise in gas prices was something he wanted to see. He insulted pipeline workers. That's what the Liberal Party is about. In the Conservative Party, we are in favour of the Trans Mountain project because it's good for all Canadians. Can the Liberal government achieve the same results?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, their actions do not demonstrate their commitment to this project. If they were really committed to getting this project right, then they would not have voted down on a process that we put in place for a meaningful consultation with indigenous communities to ensure that the impact of marine shipping was properly assessed on the marine environment, something that was excluded under Stephen Harper when that review took place, Mr. Speaker. We are changing that broken system.
Honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Tomorrow, Liberals are planning to announce their rubber stamp approval on Trans Mountain after pouring $5 billion of taxpayers' money into it. The project will need at least another $10 billion from taxpayers, and former Liberal Minister David Anderson and so many others say that this project has no business case. The project's not in the interest of our coast, Indigenous communities, our planet, or everyday Canadians. It is in the interest of shareholders of big oil and gas companies. So instead of another rubber stamp approval, why don't Liberals side with Canadians tomorrow and cancel the Trans Mountain Expansion Project?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the one hand, you have Conservatives, they don't get the environment. On the other hand, you have the NDP, they don't get the economy. We are moving forward, building a strong economy, creating jobs for the middle class, at the same time taking action on climate, ensuring that we're putting a price on pollution, ensuring that we are taking action by phasing out coal, also looking after making sure that we're meaningfully engaging with the Indigenous communities.
Right on.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke.
It's a former Liberal minister who's saying there's no business case for this project. Les gens ont raison d'être.
So people are right in being disappointed in the Liberal government. Even a former Liberal minister can't believe that the Liberals are going to approve Trans Mountain tomorrow. His concerns aren't about the environment or Indigenous peoples. They're about the economic viability of the project. In his view, going ahead with the project makes no sense. If the Liberals aren't listening to people living on our shores or the many young people who are demonstrating on the streets, will they at least listen to a former Liberal minister and cancel this project once and for all?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
We understand the diversity of opinion among Indigenous communities on this project. We know that some do support this project, some do not support this project. It is our responsibility to engage with all of them, to listen to their concerns, then offer accommodations where accommodations are possible. Also, Mr. Speaker, we are taking unprecedented action protecting our coastal communities as well through the ambitious Oceans Protection Plan that we have put in place.
That's right.
$1 billion.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, what we can see is that they continue to put the interests of large oil companies ahead of people. Inequality in this country has never been as big as it is now. The Liberals are boasting about cutting taxes, but the richest Canadians are the ones who have benefited. Yesterday, our leader put forth an ambitious idea to reduce this inequality, to make the richest Canadians pay 1% tax on their net worth in excess of $20 million, and investing those billions in services that people really need. When will the Liberals make the ultra-rich members of our society pay their fair share? The Honourable Minister of Finance. It's very important to have a tax system that works. We started with cuts for the middle class, and we have changed taxes for the wealthiest. What do we have now? A system which has improved for the middle class. They have an extra $2,000 in the pockets. We will continue to improve the situation for the middle class in the future.
Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's the folks right behind the minister that gained the most from the Liberal tax cut, because you have to earn an MP's salary in order to get the maximum benefit. And if you want to tackle inequalities in this country, we need to take bold action. We need to make the richest of the 1% of Canadians pay a 1% tax on their wealth above $20 million. That means we can invest in solutions that Canadians need, like pharmacare, dental care, and an affordable place to call home. When will the Liberals stop siding with the ultra-rich of our country and put everyday Canadians first for a change?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Actually, the member opposite might not have paid attention to what we really did. It was at the $45,000 to $90,000 tax bracket that we reduced by 7%.
That's right.
We also put in place the Canada Child Benefit, which was means tested, which means significant benefits went to families at lower and middle income. Of course, it was means tested after $150,000 of family income.
At the same time, though, we raised taxes on the top 1%. These measures together have led us to be in a very positive economic situation with the lowest rate of unemployment in history in our country. A positive situation. We're going to keep working in the future for the middle class.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, last week the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that the Liberal government's plan makes no sense. The PBO proved that under their plan, the Liberals will be increasing or raising the cost of gas at the pump by 23 cents a litre because of their carbon tax. Mr. Speaker, only Liberals would think that taxing more represents an effective plan. My question to the Prime Minister is simple. Why do the Liberals still want to raise the cost of gas by 23 cents a litre at the expense of Canadians?
Mr. Speaker, the question the honourable member put on the floor of the House of Commons is grossly misleading. He knows that the PBO report presumes that no action will be taken beyond measures that are currently in place in order to hit our targets. We will hit our targets. To date, we have put forward a price on pollution. We are going to make sure that 90% of our electricity comes from non-emitting resources from 2030. We've made the largest investment in the history of public transit. Mr. Speaker, I have taken hundreds of questions in this chamber, not one of them from Conservative MP asking us to do more. When it comes to the environment, the Conservative Party of Canada cannot be trusted.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, since this Liberal government took office, Canadians' cost of living has shot up. And, oddly, so has the deficit. 80% of families, Canadian families, are paying more tax since the Liberals took office. That represents $800 more per year. That's coming out of Canadians' pockets. So I'll repeat my question for the Minister. Why do they want to keep increasing this burden for Canadians by hiking the cost of gas by 23 cents a litre?
Mr. Speaker, with respect when it comes to the affordability, we have no lessons to learn from the Conservatives who opposed the Canada Child Benefit, which put more money in the pockets of 9 out of 10 low and middle income families. They voted against cutting taxes for middle class Canadians and voted for keeping them low for the richest 1%. When it comes to climate, Mr. Speaker, I've answered so many questions. They don't seem to listen. They won't listen to Conservative stalwarts like Preston Manning. They won't listen to the Nobel Prize winner in economics. I'd urge them to listen to the Pope from this past weekend, who said for too long we've collectively failed to listen to the fruits of scientific analysis and called carbon pricing essential. It's time to get with the program.
Order.
Order. À l'ordre.
Order.
L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, it's clear Liberals cut tax credits for people using public transit. The Liberals cut tax credits for children participating in sports and cultural activities. And the Prime Minister created a deficit on the backs of our children and grandchildren who will have to pay it one of these days. In the end, Canadians are the ones paying, Canadian workers will be paying more tax because of this government. Why is the Prime Minister again hiking the cost of gas by 23 cents a litre with this carbon tax?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I want to talk about adding costs for the next generations, Mr. Speaker. Inaction on climate change is the thing that is going to lead to the greatest cost for future generations. Every time we propose a measure to deal with the environment, the Conservatives oppose it. They oppose our price on pollution. They oppose our largest investment in the history of public transit. For God's sakes, Mr. Speaker, when we announced we were going to be banning harmful single-use plastics and gave them an opportunity to support the environment or garbage, they've chosen garbage, Mr. Speaker. They cannot be trusted when it comes to the environment. It's time we get with the 21st century. Climate change is real, and we found a way to make life more affordable for families at the same time.
I think the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary meant for goodness sake. He's gone from the Pope to a higher power. The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, speaking of the Pope, it's time that they made confession over there. Because they've been keeping a deep, dark secret that if this government is reelected, as the PBO has pointed out, the carbon tax will add a full 23 cents to the cost of gas. Now, this is the PBO, whose word is much more reliable than that of a government that's missing its data balanced budget by 2 decades. So will the member unburden his soul and confess to Canadians the real price that he will add to a litre of gas if re-elected?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the recent PBO report, the honourable member knows that it presumes that no further action will be taken on climate change. I'd suggest the honourable member is projecting what we should expect to see in the Conservative plan due to come out this week. I'd also invite the honourable member to review the prior report of the Parliamentary Budget Officer, which indicated 8 out of 10 families in his province will be left better off as a result of our plan. We're following the advice of the leading experts in the world, including last year's winner of the Nobel Prize in Economics. Mr. Speaker, if he won't believe me, he won't believe the Pope, he won't believe the Nobel Prize winner, I'd suggest there's no convincing him.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, he still wouldn't answer the simple question of how much gas prices will go up when the Liberal carbon tax is fully and finally implemented. But the PBO went on CTV last week and said that the Liberal plan for the carbon tax would have to be twice as high as they now admit and 5 times as high as it now is, leading to gas prices that would rise 23 cents a litre. If the PBO is wrong, then how much will gas prices go up under the Liberal plan?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member had actually read the PBO report, he would notice that he actually pointed out that this was the least expensive option. I expect that the Conservative plan will mirror that of Doug Ford's, and I'm curious that their strategy is to cozy up to the Premier of Ontario. However, we know that it's going to lead to a worse record in terms of emissions reduction and a greater cost for families. We've been transparent about our plan. The price will increase to $50 a tonne by 2022. I'll show them the website afterwards. Until then, I'll assume their plan will mirror Doug Ford's and will make life more expensive for families.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
So there we have it. 23 cents a litre is the minimum cost Liberals would impose on Canadian motorists. Well, I think Canadians would like to know what is the maximum cost of a Liberal carbon tax. He's right. The PBO did say that the Liberal carbon tax could actually be higher than the $100 a tonne. He speaks about provincial politics. We know that Kathleen Wynne is their model. She lied in 4 elections about coming tax increases. She increased the cost of energy. If they're following that model, why won't they come clean before the election and tell us how much it will cost and higher gas prices if the Liberals are re-elected?
The Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the opportunity to clarify because, as the parliamentary budget officer pointed out, the climate action incentive actually makes life more affordable for his constituents. The whole system works by returning the rebates directly to households. A typical family of 4 in the honourable member's own constituency would have received $370 off their taxes this year. I'm curious that the Conservative Party of Canada has now adopted an approach towards politics that would see families pay more tax. It comes as no surprise to me after a number of years watching them vote against the Canada Child Benefit, against the middle class tax cut, and now against the price on pollution that will reduce emissions and make life more affordable.
Order.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, the healthcare system is no longer in tune with the current reality. It's not normal for care in some areas to be covered and others not, like dental and vision care. The Liberals' approach simply isn't producing the desired results. The NDP proposes to extend coverage for healthcare so that it covers people from head to toe, while offering Quebec and other provinces an opportunity to withdraw with compensation. Will the government use the NDP's example to extend medical coverage so that it also includes dental and vision care?
La Santé.
The Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy of our government's historic investments in health. To meet the needs of Canadians of today and in the future, we have invested many millions of dollars in mental health care. We will continue to work with the provinces and territories to ensure that Canadians are proud of their health care system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Elmwood Transcona.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that wasn't really an answer to the question. You know, I mean, it was over 20 years ago that the Liberals first promised pharmacare. They've had 3 majority governments since then, and their common criticism of the NDP is that we're in too big a hurry. Yeah, we're in a hurry. We think it shouldn't have taken 20 years for Canadians to get affordable access to prescription drugs. And we're not prepared to apologize for that in the least, Mr. Speaker. And we also know, because the science tells us that preventative access to things like dental care and eye care are less expensive in the long term and improve quality of life. So will they commit today to moving forward on that?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to be a part of a government that has made historic investments in the area of mental care and home care to make sure that we can meet the needs of Canadians for today and also for tomorrow. We have invested more than $11 billion in the area of home care and mental health, and from there we continue to work with provinces and territories as we want to make sure that our healthcare system remains a point of pride for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
When 6 premiers expressed their serious concerns about the Liberals ramming the anti-energy Bill C-69 through the House, the Prime Minister attacked them and accused them of threatening national unity. When respected economist Dr. Jack Mintz raised concerns with the damaging impact of the Liberals' energy policies, the Minister of Natural Resources attacked him and accused him of undermining Canada. Why is it whenever legitimate concerns about the energy sector are raised with these Liberals, their response is always, shut your mouth, Ottawa knows best?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, part of our commitment in 2015 was to put forward an agenda that would help us grow the economy and protect our environment at the same time. We noticed that after 10 years of government under Stephen Harper, where they couldn't get major projects done, part of it had to do with the fact that they rammed through an environmental assessment process that did not gain the trust of Canadians. We're advancing better rules that's going to enhance public participation, strengthen environmental protections, and give certainty to industry. This is why the Mining Association of Canada is behind it, the industry that deals with these processes more than any other. Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member would like a tutor session with me, I'd be happy to walk him through it afterwards.
I encourage members to be judicious in their choice of words. The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if you wanted to see Ottawa Liberal arrogance, there it was. 9 provinces have expressed their concern about Bill C-69. Indigenous leaders from across the country have expressed their concerns about Bill C-69, and this government has ignored them every step of the way because they believe when it comes to energy, they're the only ones that know anything, Mr. Speaker. How can this government come off saying they know best when they've been the worst government in Canadian history when it comes to Canadian energy workers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, with great respect to the honourable member, it was the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada who said that Ottawa knows best. We are moving forward with an agenda that's going to strengthen environmental protections. It's going to provide certainty for industry. And importantly, it's going to allow the public greater opportunities to take part in the environmental assessments of projects that impact their communities. These are simple principles, Mr. Speaker. We've went through an extensive period of consultation to understand the impact it would have on Canadians. We've come up with a process that will help grow our economy, protect our environment at the same time, and I'm proud to stand with this government as we move forward with this ambitious agenda.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals must approve the Trans Mountain expansion tomorrow, which they already did before in 2016, except now this time it actually has to get built. But the Liberals are blocking all new pipelines with their anti-energy, anti-business Bill C-69 that 9 out of 10 provinces in all 3 territories oppose. The Nisga'a, the Lakwalams, and hundreds of other Indigenous communities are against the Liberals' shipping ban, C-48, and they've been against it from day one. But instead of cancelling it, these Liberals are steamrolling opposition and Indigenous communities to force it through before summer. So will these Liberals kill these anti-energy bills before it's too late?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
it remains committed to delivering on its promise to Canadians to put forward this oil tanker moratorium and to formalize it in legislation. I stood in this House just this morning addressing the Senate amendments that came over. We are hoping to work with all parliamentarians here. I think it's important for Canadians to understand when it comes to Bill C-48, every single party in this House voted in favor. The only party that didn't vote in favor was the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. I remind members that those singing can do so outside. Now, member for Lakeland.
Well, it's ironic that that member would answer the question since he's the one from Burnaby who opposes the Trans Mountain expansion.
That's right.
Now, the Senate changes to the Liberals' No More Pipelines Bill C-69 would actually have increased the voices of locally impacted Indigenous communities in resource reviews, but the Liberals rejected them. And manufacturers, chambers, economists, provinces, and municipalities are outraged too. Quebec warns, quote, C-69 gives the federal government the equivalent of a veto over Quebec economic development. And Ontario says it's the worst possible news at the worst possible time, which will, quote, hinder natural resource-related economic development in Canada. So again, will the Liberals kill Bill C-69 before it's too late?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, with great respect to the honourable member, we know that the mining sector, as an example, is the sector that deals with environmental assessments more than any other industrial sector in the Canadian economy. They come out supporting the process that is outlined in Bill C-69 because they understand that we're putting forward better rules than were put forward under the previous government. We have better rules that are going to enhance environmental protection. It's going to increase the ability of the public to take part in the projects that affect them, and it's going to engage Indigenous voices at the same time that we bring certainty to industry. This is not complicated. This is common sense, straightforward proposals that will help improve our ability to get major projects done in the right way.
Member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, Amin was deployed 7 times as a language and cultural advisor for the Canadian mission in Afghanistan. Like many Canadians, Amin brought the war home with him in the form of PTSD. When he reached out to this government, he was told he wasn't eligible because he had not applied for civilian benefits on time. Wow. Civilians share the risk, but they don't get the support. That is wrong. Surely this government can support this gentleman in his desperate time of need and all the other civilians who put their lives on the line for Canada.
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, we are proud of the work of the women and men in uniform and civilians who have served in Afghanistan. I want to thank Mr. Wabi for his work and dedication to helping our Canadian Armed Forces members. For privacy reasons, I can't speak to the specifics of the case, but I have directed officials to look into this case and find a solution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Abortion is legal in Canada, yet some struggle to access this service in a timely fashion. It's not enough for the Liberals and the Conservatives to say that they won't reopen the abortion debate. Under the Canada Health Act, abortion services are insured, yet only 1 in 6 hospitals actually offer these services. Some provinces will not cover the cost of surgical abortion in health clinics. Access is even worse for people in rural areas, the North and the Atlantic provinces. Will the Liberals enforce the Canada Health Act to ensure medical and surgical abortion is available and covered in all parts of the country?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, unlike the Harper Conservatives, we know that the abortion rights are protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedom, and we will always defend those rights. We believe that all Canadian women should have access to safe abortion services, and that's why we stood up for reproductive health options in all parts of Canada, including expanding access to mifogamizo in different parts of the country and including rural areas to ensure that everyone has access to abortion services. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, residents of Brossard-Saint-Lambert and myself were thrilled today to hear that the new Samuel de Champlain Bridge will be opening very soon. In 2015, our government said clearly that we wanted to help families have easier commutes so that they could spend more time together and less time stuck in traffic. Can my honourable colleague, the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, update us on the opening of the new details concerning the new Champlain Bridge? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to thank my colleague, the member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert, for her support and her tireless support throughout this project. We are proud to deliver the residents of Montreal a modern and emblematic bridge. The north end will be open starting on June 24th. The official opening ceremony will happen on June 28th. And the south end will be open starting July 1st. Mr. Speaker, the true heroes of this project are the over 1,600 workers who worked tirelessly to deliver this amazing project for Canada.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, in the past few weeks, the community of Vavenby and 100 Mile have been devastated by sawmill closures. We have an industry in crisis, and it's moving en masse to the United States. Despite this urgency, this government failed to even consider it as part of the NAFTA negotiations. The Prime Minister is heading to Washington next week to meet with a U.S. President. Will he commit to addressing the softwood lumber dispute with President Trump?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. We strongly disagree with U.S. tariffs on softwood lumber. These are punitive duties. They're unfair. They're deeply troubling. Our government will take every opportunity to vigorously defend our forestry industry, its workers against protectionist trade measures. My father is a professional forester. I grew up in that industry. We are committed to it. We will continue to work constantly to ensure that our industry is successful and our workers are employed.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, for 2 years now, we've been calling on the Prime Minister to take action to manage the border crisis. For 2 years, he's been spending millions welcoming illegal migrants, but he's done nothing to stop migration. On Thursday, he's meeting with President Trump. Will he have the courage to stand up and bring up the issue of illegal migrants entering Canada from the U.S.?
The Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Outset, we've been very clear, and our government is committed to a fair and compassionate system, which does in fact provide protection to those who need it while ensuring the safety of all Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we've achieved an extraordinary reduction in the number of people who have been crossing our borders irregularly as a direct result of our work with the United States and of our other partners right across Canada and around the world. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work hard for Canadians to ensure that our system remains fair and safe.
Honourable member for Selkirk-Interlake Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Canada's Arctic sovereignty is under threat. The United States refuses to recognize our sovereignty over our Arctic waters. Last month, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called our claim to the Northwest Passage illegitimate. The Arctic has never been a priority to these Liberals, and the Prime Minister has never stood up for our Arctic sovereignty. The Prime Minister is meeting with President Trump on Thursday. Now, does the Prime Minister plan to continue his policy of giving away our sovereignty to Trump, or will he finally fight for our Arctic?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's Arctic sovereignty is long-standing. It's well-established. We've taken every opportunity to express that. We know that the North is an extremely important region of our country. It's more than photo ops. It's more than taking a picture and going to the Arctic once a summer. It's about real people, sustainable environmental protection, and ensuring that Canada's sovereignty is protected. We will stand firm. Canada's Arctic is Canada's Arctic.
Honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Speaker, when will we see the Prime Minister stand for our sovereignty? Canadians are concerned about the Prime Minister's ability to convince the U.S. President when he meets with him this week to act with Canada to free 2 Canadians from a Chinese prison. This Prime Minister consistently fails Canadians in our global relationships, and in particular with China, to the point where the Chinese President has said he won't meet with the Prime Minister during the G20. With lives hanging in the balance, will the Prime Minister secure the support of the U.S. President to help release our imprisoned Canadians in China?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And indeed, Canadian lives do hang in the balance. And this is not about political grandstanding. It's not about rhetoric. It's about doing the work patiently and persistently and continuing to not try to score political points, but to bring Canadians home safely. We've rallied an unprecedented number of partners around the world in support of Canada's position. NATO, Australia, the EU, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, the United States Senate. We will continue to stand up for Canadians. We ask all members of this House to do the same.
Well done. The honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, I hope that this government will finally rise above partisanship. But, 1 month ago, the NDP tabled a motion on the urgency of climate action, but the Liberals and Conservatives voted against it. It seems the government would rather adopt its own motion on climate change, one that maintains pipelines and oil subsidies. They'd rather play political games than work with other parties to deal with this emergency. Will the government stop politicizing this critical issue and start working with all of us to review emissions targets and oil subsidies and start the green transition? An entire generation is waiting for them to do so. Will they do it, yes or no?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Ministry of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'd be honored to work alongside the honourable member any day to advance a climate agenda that actually makes sense. One of the problems with the NDP's climate motion is that they called for the immediate end to all subsidies, no matter what, which included subsidies that provide electricity to northern remote Indigenous communities. It included subsidies for research that would actually help some of our biggest polluters bring their emissions down. And it includes subsidies that's going to help with the transition towards electric vehicles. As always, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to climate change, the NDP have their heart in the right place. Their head simply hasn't caught up.
The honourable member for Essex.
As the Prime Minister goes to meet with Donald Trump in the U.S., he has shut down debate on a trade deal that will impact Canadians for generations to come. The Liberals' promise of a full debate on the new NAFTA is now just another broken promise. Costs of medication, copyright extension, corporate powers over our regulatory bodies, dairy farmers losing out, and jobs. All of these are at stake. On the TPP, the Trade Committee had over 400 witnesses on a cross-country tour. Do you know how many witnesses we'll have at the pre-study on the new NAFTA tomorrow? 12. Wow. Why are Liberals trying to silence stakeholders and keep Canadians in the dark?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, this member in particular should know that the new NAFTA is a great deal for Labour, for auto workers, especially those in her own riding. Then President of Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce, Janice Forsyth, said, and I quote, "The New Deal is a great step forward." Flavio Volpe, the President of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association of Canada, said, "Windsor is perfectly positioned to take advantage of the new agreement." Mr. Speaker, why will this member not support the workers of her own riding instead of trying to score some political points?
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
The Liberals are falling far short of their Paris targets, yet the minister continues to pretend that she's on track, trying to distract from her own climate failures. Now she asks Canadians to believe that the Liberals won't hike the carbon tax past $50 per tonne. Right. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has said that for the carbon tax to have any effect, it would need to be doubled to meet the Paris targets. The Liberals can't have it both ways. When will the minister admit she won't meet the Paris targets?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, we are going to meet our Paris Agreement targets because, quite frankly, failure is not an option. With respect to the PBO report, I pointed out a number of times on the floor today that it assumes that no further steps will be taken on climate change. Perhaps this is foreshadowing what the Conservative plan is going to look like. We know that climate change is real, and we know that we have an obligation and an opportunity to do something about it. In fact, I think we have an obligation to do the most effective solutions that we know exist today. That includes putting a price on pollution that's going to bring emissions down, but by working with folks like the Nobel Prize winner in economics last year, we found a way to do it that makes life more affordable for Canadian households.
Député de Bellechasse.
Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, can you explain to me why the Liberals are spending more than $25,000 on an organization that has been banned by the CRA due to its links to terrorist organizations? ISNA is on the blacklist of the agency. An audit found that money ostensibly meant for charity work was being sent to an extremist terrorist organization, or at least an organization considered a terrorist organization by India, the US, and the EU. We're talking about terrorism and extremism here. So why was this money approved, and what is the minister waiting for to revoke the money immediately, rather than proceeding to bogus studies?
The Secretary to the Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague across for the question, and
He knows we unequivocally condemn violence, extremism of any kind, and is unacceptable and is not tolerated. We understand and share the members' concerns about this organization. EDSD is conducting a review of this matter through Service Canada Ontario, and the member has long served in this House. He knows how this program works, that money will not be flowing if, in fact, this group is not compliant.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill. Order.
The Liberals can't stand up and say that they don't support terrorism and then give funding to an organization that was proven to have given money to terrorists. It's ridiculous. Yet they made organizations that do things like support women who are single moms, support poverty reductions in our community. They had that funding rejected because these organizations wouldn't sign their others' values test. When are they going to do the right thing? This is a no-brainer, and revoke the funding to this organization.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, the Conservatives like to say that, politics are being played with the Canada Summer Jobs. Mr. Speaker, politics are being played by this because we know that the Conservatives have continued to mislead Canadians with regard to Canada Summer Jobs. They say that we're not funding any faith-based groups anymore. Even in the leaders' riding, Raymore Baptist Church has received funding. Avonhurst Pentecostal Assembly, Echo Lake Bible Camp, Mr. Speaker. I think if they check their lists, that would be another aspect of this program that they continue to play politics with.
I remind the member for Calgary Nose Hill that after she poses her question, someone else gets to speak. So she should not be interrupting when someone else is speaking, and nor should anybody else. You should all keep that in mind, that each side gets its turn.
The Honourable Member for Marquerolles-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, over the last few years, I've had the privilege of sitting on the National Defence Committee. While our government implemented its new defense policy, and our men and women in uniform are the priority for this government. And this includes people who participate in the reserves. Will the Minister of National Defence tell us about the recent changes implemented to support our reservists across the country? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague from Marquerolles-Fortin for his question and his support to the reservists. Last week I was in Laval to announce changes to the reserve force pay. And Mr. Speaker, the reservists will now be paid the same as the regular force for the valuable work that they do. This important initiative laid out in our defense policy, Strong, Secure, and Engaged, is a clear demonstration of how we value the dedication of all members of the Canadian Armed Forces. To our reservists, you make us proud. Merci beaucoup.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, last week the PM claimed the Liberal member for Steveston Richmond East addressed allegations the MP's law firm was used by a notorious Chinese drug boss to launder money. We now learn the BC inquiry into money laundering has discovered the same member was directly involved in another suspicious deal. The purported deal involved a wealthy gambler, hidden investors, and an unexplained $1 million transfer in and out of the MP's law firm. Mr. Speaker, will the PM act, or is this just another case of one set of rules for Liberals and another for everyone else?
The Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Speaker, we've been working very hard with the provincial governments right across the country, and in particular in British Columbia, on the issue of money laundering. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to comment on any unproven allegation at this point, but what I will tell you is that our government's been working very, very diligently to address all of the sectoral vulnerabilities, including working with law societies from across Canada to address the concerns that are being addressed.
Member for Churchill, Kiwatnook-Askey.
Mr. Speaker, a Valley tailings dam by my community of Thompson has been flagged by outside investigators for stability concerns. Valley told its shareholders of this, but not people living on the ground. In fact, it took an investigative report from the Wall Street Journal for this to come to light. No one wants another Mount Polley disaster. But this is a company that showed repeatedly that it does not take these kinds of safety concerns seriously. So to the Minister, what is this government doing to ensure the protection of the people and the environment around Thompson and in our north?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we take the safety of communities very, very seriously, and we take the safety of such. What I'll do is I will absolutely follow up with the honourable member to ensure that we are listening to her concerns as well as concerns of the community.
Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, the steel sector directly employs over 20,000 Canadians across the country, and it is vital to manufacturing companies in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge. In the face of the U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum, Canadians stood together and firm to defend these important industries and our workers. Now that we have succeeded in having the U.S. tariffs fully lifted, can the Minister of Finance update the House on how our government is working to continue to protect the industry and workers from unfair trade practices?
Great question.
Minister.
Challenges around the world, we need to continue to take actions to protect our steel industry against the potential of import surges. We introduced Bill 101 in order to make sure that we have the flexibility to stabilize our market, to protect workers, to protect the industry in the case of steel surges that might come because of those protectionist issues. So I want to thank the member from Vaughan Woodbridge and the Finance Committee for their work, and I want to ask all members in the House to bring forth their unanimous support so we can move this bill forward quickly to protect steel workers and to protect our steel industry.
Honourable member for Calgary Shepherd.
Nearly 2 million people in Hong Kong have taken to the streets to protest the draconian new extradition law that would have seen residents and visitors, including Canadians, sent to China to face trial in communist-controlled courts. They are on the streets to defend their hard-earned democracy. The extradition law is a clear assault on Hong Kong's autonomy. There is mounting pressure for Hong Kong's PRC-controlled leader, Carrie Lam, to resign after trying to ram through this law and silencing peaceful protesters with violence. What action is the government taking to support the people of Hong Kong and the 300,000 Canadians living there?
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for his sincere question and his concern about this topic, which I think is shared throughout this House. We have expressed serious concerns about the proposed amendments to Hong Kong's extradition laws. They've been delayed. They've not yet been cancelled. The Hong Kong government must listen to the voices of its citizens. Last week, we issued another public statement expressing our concern about the impact of these changes, and we are very aware that there are indeed 300,000 Canadians living in Hong Kong. That is a special concern to all of us. I took this topic up with legislators when I met with them in Hong Kong. We will continue to advocate for human rights in our world.
The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Quebec finally passed its law on state secularism. Finally, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister now commit to respecting the will of Quebecers and the will of the National Assembly? Will he promise not to challenge the law in court and not to fund a court challenge of the new Quebec law?
Ministre de la Justice.
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, our position has always been clear. It's not for politicians to tell people what they should or should not wear. Canada is already a secular country, and that is reflected in our institutions. No one should have to choose between their religion and their job. This new law violates people's fundamental individual rights. We will always defend the Charter, Mr. Speaker, and we will do so for all citizens of Canada. The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, the chair of the Justice Committee, who is totally out of touch with Quebecers, has already called it a sad day for Quebec. It took him less than 24 hours. Well, despite what he thinks, this is a great day for Quebec. It's the culmination of over 10 years of debate on Quebec secularism. But the game is not won yet. We still need to make sure that Ottawa won't challenge the law in court. Will Quebecers get a solemn promise that the federal government will respect their wishes and refrain from challenging the new secularism law either directly or indirectly? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I know the chair of the Justice Committee. I've known him for years. He's a proud Quebecer, he's a proud Canadian, and he has the right to his opinion on this very fundamental issue in Quebec. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we've always defended the Charter. It is not up to the government to tell people what they should or should not wear. We already have a secular country here in Canada, And as I have already said, we will defend the Charter.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. It was one of the proudest moments of my life when I was elected to the first Legislative Assembly of Nunavut. There was such hope and promise. But fast forward 20 years and life is not better for Nunavut. For many, it's worse. Nunavut only works if we can build a sustainable economy, and we can only do that with the support that was promised by the federal government. It will take massive investments in infrastructure, housing, roads, ports, and connectivity. Mr. Speaker, through you, will the Prime Minister finally work with the government of Nunavut and fulfill the commitment Canada made 20 years ago, or do we have to wait another 20?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Pride that Canada is working with the government of Nunavut, but in all our northern partners to be able to develop and implement the new Arctic and Northern Policy Framework that will be done based on the principles that were determined by Northerners around infrastructure, investing in people and investing in our sovereignty. So I look forward to working and being able to announce that very quickly.
Comme il est 15h08.
As it is 3:08 p.m., the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at the third reading stage of Bill C-88. Call in the members.
Order the Honourable Minister. No, we can't.
You were supposed to.
Question est la suivante.
The question is as follows. Mr. LeBlanc, seconded by Ms. Chagger, moved that Bill C-88 enact to amend the Mackenzie Valley Resource Management Act and the Canadian Petroleum Resources Act, and to make consequential amendments to other acts, be now read a third time and do pass. All those in favour of the motion will please rise.
Mr. Hare.
Mr. Hare.
Mr. Macaulay Cardigan.
Mr. Macaulay Cardigan.
Mr. Sajan.
Mr. Sajan.
Madame Joly.
Madame Joly.
Mr. Goodale.
Mr. Goodale.
Ms. Petitpas-Taylor.
Ms. Petitpas-Taylor.
Miss Murray.
Ms. Murray.
Ms. Qualtrough.
Ms. Qualtrough.
Mr. Morneau.
Mr. Morneau.
Ms. Freeland.
Ms. Freeland.
Monsieur Lametti.
Mr. Lametti.
Ms. Bennett.
Ms. Bennett.
Mr. Hussain.
Mr. Hussain.
Mr. O'Regan.
Mr. O'Regan.
Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Ms. Tassi.
Ms. Tassi.
Miss Ing.
Miss Ing.
Mrs. Jordan.
Mrs. Jordan.
Miss Mahaichuk.
Miss Mahaichuk.
Mr. Casey Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Casey Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Easter.
Mr. Easter.
Mr. McKay.
Mr. McKay.
Miss Scrow.
Miss Scrow.
Mr. Eiking.
Eiking.
Mrs. Lockhart.
Mrs. Lockhart.
Monsieur Lauzon, Argenteuil, La Petite Nation.
Monsieur Lauzon, Argenteuil, La Petite Nation.
Mrs.